Let's see. Can I get a volunteer to make a backup recording? Anybody? Mick, can I bother you to make a backup recording?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I'll
All right.
just
I'll make
press
you
the button,
co-host.
correct?
Yep.
Okay.
And I like to record locally.
Yes.
Maybe
Okay.
I'm just old. I still don't trust the damn cloud, right? I understand a hard drive in my system, right? If the computer crashes, I know how to open it and take it out, mod on another computer, right? When it's in the cloud, I'm like, ah! All right, so we will, I'm going to do a little screen share here. And we're off and running. Hello, and welcome to our Moving Forward live session. My name is Brent Michael Phillips, and I'm the founder and creator of the Awakening Dynamic System of Energy Healing and Higher Consciousness. I will be your exciting world of movement feedback holography. Now, we're going to spend just the next 10 minutes or so providing you with a brief introduction and background on how you can get the most out of these sessions. And then we'll jump right in and get moving. So let's get into it. Now, the primary purpose and goal of these sessions is to give you an opportunity to practice and experience movement feedback holography for yourself without needing to spend a lot of time or money preparing or learning anything first. To get us started, let's not talk about me. It's actually a really great story, but we'll save that for the Healathon live webinar. Instead, let's talk about what this movement can do for you. Now, you probably have tried some kind of mind power or new age stuff before, but most likely you've been disappointed or at least left feeling incomplete. You see, most of what's out there is what we call first generation consciousness technologies. You know, things like the law of attraction from The Secret, or old school positive thinking like Think and Grow Rich. Unfortunately, these primitive technologies generally don't work as advertised. Sure, they'll promise you the moon, but typically deliver very little. In fact, did you know that a formal research study showed that less than 1% of people report getting good results from the typical law of attraction programs? Of course, if you've been around this mind power energy healing world for a while, you've probably also experienced some of what are called the second generation consciousness technologies. Things such as hypnosis, NLP, Psych-K, EFT, or maybe the healing codes. We call them second generation techniques because they include a method of directly accessing the subconscious mind, which generally leads to not only better results, but also a good number of what are variously called spontaneous remissions, instant healings, or medical miracles. However, results still tend to be hit or miss, and these second-gen techs are too mind and language focused to deliver consistently good results with things like making money, self-confidence, finding your true self, and achieving a flow state. The good news is that there is an entire category of what are called third-generation consciousness technologies that are far more powerful and deliver consistently better results. And that's exactly what I want you to experience tonight. So, what is this movement feedback holography? In short, movement feedback holography, or just movement, is a true third generation consciousness technology that involves performing specific physical movements with the supervision of an expert facilitator who knows how to beam or tune energy, as well as how to give you feedback on the energetic patterns that show up in your movements. Beaming is our fun way of saying that I will be using an advanced meditative and training technique to help you maintain a relaxed or parasympathetic flow state in your nervous system, also sometimes called a trance state or the zone, which will help you to creatively learn new behaviors and thought patterns much more quickly and easily. Using movement and beaming together can transcend the limitations of other energy healing and mind power systems, as we'll be doing a visual and intuitive process by which the facilitator gives feedback on the symbolic patterns that emerge as you do the movement. You see, all of us are constantly telling other people and the universe exactly how to treat us. But this happens mostly invisibly and subconsciously. As a result, you may still be left wondering why you're still in pain, or still poor, or alone, and still suffering, even after you've done a huge amount of spiritual work. In a movement feedback holography session, the meditative beaming combines with the physical movement and the expert feedback to help us clear dozens or hundreds of subconscious blocks, usually instantly and permanently. The potential benefits of this process for you are many and include: you can fully let go of limiting beliefs and traumas from the past. You can be far more present, grounded, and connected to the space around you. You may be happier and healthier, and people will tend to like you more. You may tend to make more money, and sometimes a lot more money. In fact, my late mentor used to ask all his new clients the following question: are you ready to add a zero to your income? But most importantly, movement and the energy beaming together can start to radically accelerate the ascension of your consciousness towards enlightenment. Now, don't get me wrong. Nobody can ever promise that you'll make $1 billion or become an enlightened master overnight. Instead, my goal for today is simply to use movement to help you take an important step forward on your journey into higher consciousness. We're going to start the live movement session in just a few minutes, and so let's quickly cover a few things you need to know before we begin. When we start moving, I'm going to give everyone a simple movement to do in front of your camera. Please just do your best to move with a group. But remember that this is movement, not exercise. So please do not do anything that ever causes you pain or discomfort, or that might cause an injury. And if you get tired or need to rest, please feel free to take a break at any time. As the group is moving, I will call out certain people, maybe you, to highlight on the screen as I call out the energy patterns that you are radiating. As you're moving, I will also be beaming the group with energy to facilitate and accelerate your transformations. We'll do this with a few people and then take a short break for the group to discuss what they felt and experienced and to answer questions. And then it's back to more movement. And we'll repeat with more movement and more questions until we're done. Now, let's cover just a few simple instructions so you can get the maximum benefit out of our session. First, please have your camera on if you are present and participating in the movement. Ideally, we'd like to see you at least from your waist to the top of your head. Also, please use a headset with a microphone whenever possible if you wish to speak to the group. If you don't have a headset, please stay muted unless you are asked direct questions. But don't worry, even without a headset, you can always use the chat room at any time to ask questions or give feedback. Next, please don't try to fix your movement or make it better. Just move. For example, if I tell you that your movement is stiff like a robot, it's natural for you to try to fix it by moving more smoothly. Unfortunately, trying to fix your movement is actually one of the worst things that you can do. Instead, do your best to just move without thinking about it. Also be aware that there is a meditative aspect to this work that's happening in the background. We call it beaming, or consciousness shifting, or tuning the quantum field. And if you're sensitive to the energy, you may notice that you start to see auras and maybe even see past lives with your open eyes. Now, most people don't see energy like this in their first session, but some do, so consider this your warning. Lastly, please be aware that most of us need a lot of specialized training to be able to read and articulate the energy patterns the way I can, so don't be too hard on yourself. Now let's get into it. Please be aware that the movements we're doing tonight are designed to get you started with third-generation consciousness technology in a way that will be easy and fun and lightweight. Of course, what we're doing here tonight is barely scratching the surface of what movement and other aspects of awakening dynamics can do for you. And just like any powerful process, going deeper and getting the truly life-changing results. You know, little things like instant healings or tripling your income. They usually require a bigger commitment than just a 1-hour group session. So if you're a dip your toe in the water kind of person, you can start with these sessions. And if you want to learn more, you can check out my YouTube channel and my ebooks. On the other hand, if you can see the massive value here and you're ready to dive right in for maximum benefits, please ask about private sessions and the upcoming live weekend intensive. All right, we're at the end of the introduction now, so make sure you've got your camera and headset ready to rock, because we're about to start moving.
You're muted.
So it's funny, I guess, you guys could hear my son's games in the other room, huh? Yeah, because I had my microphone muted. I'm like, how the hell is that happening? So anyhow, sorry about that. I just told him to knock it off till we're done. No big deal. I just didn't
That
expect
was a nice video. Nice video.
Cool. So any questions on anything? Or you
There's
guys
a couple of
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sounded
there's
like
a couple of typos, just so you know.
Okay. Did you notice where?
The clock, when it was doing the clock, its energy was missing an E, and then later on, I can't remember now because.
Okay.
The consciousness. The letter it says consciousness missed a letter.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll check that out later. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, we'll get into it. Again, I wanted to do things a little differently here. What I thought is we'll have everyone moving until I see kind of an energy pattern, and then I will call it out and make them big on the screen and go, hey guys, this is what this looks like, right? This is what it looks like when, you're throwing it off, or this is what it looks like when there's nothing behind you. And we'll keep doing it a little bit so everyone has a chance to see it and kind of take it in. Then we'll change it. Then we'll go back to the whole group moving. And of course, it'll get a little boring if all we're doing is handshaking and energy scooping. So I definitely want to open it up for some different kinds of movements. We can start with the handshaking because that's one we're all familiar with. But again, I wanted to do things a little differently here. This is more geared to helping us learn how to read it, right? Of course, there'll be transformation too. Just like when we focus on transformation, you also get training on how to read the energy. But what I wanted to build up was sort of a library of what we might call intuitive body language to kind of catalog the major kind of energies and myths that we see and have examples that people can look at. Does that make sense? And feel free to ask questions at any time. If we're right in the middle of like reading some energy, I may push it off a little bit. But the Q&A is an important part of why we're doing this, right? Otherwise, I just sit in my basement and record a bunch of videos and put it out there like whatever, right? Awesome. So any questions or feedback?
I know I shouldn't be shaking this hand so much.
Yeah, if you have an injury, don't shake that hand, just shake your other hand.
Okay.
It's not ideal, but hey, when you have an injury, we got to work around it, right? Yeah. We might try shaking our elbows, might be an interesting one, right? Or, I thought doing the wave might be a good one that we could do too. So,
I should have do the scooping and that wouldn't.
Yeah, sure. But just for anything, if you have an injury, a place that's painful or sore or injured, either just leave it out or do it gentle or do it really, really slow is another option. So if you want to go really, really slow, like shake your hands like this, that's, it's all kosher. What Carl used to say is all the movements are made up. That I think he said he learned about 20 from his dance teacher, but he had come up with over 200. Though he said there's, most people just find a handful that they really like, they go back to over and over, right? So you're all welcome to exhibit some creativity. So that's why I thought doing the wave might be a fun movement, right? Throwing something in the air and catching it might be another one we'll do. Just something like that, right? So, all right. And again, we'll all move for a minute or two till I find some good energy patterns. We'll call it out, look at it, work with it, take questions, and then go back to the group and repeat until we either get bored or ascend into true masterhood. Sound good? Awesome. So, well, why don't we start with the energy scooping? Because that's one we're all familiar with. We all know really well. And again, the instructions are pretty simple. If possible, would love to see you from your waist up to the top of your head. You know, as always, do the best you can. Oh, I see Lakita's all set up for TikTok. As soon as I see that, you know, narrow, I'm like, TikTok, TikTok. It's giving me a headache already. Let's see what we got going on here. I'm gonna call out Mitt here. So Mitt, I'm gonna make you big on the screen. And for everyone else, you're welcome to keep moving, or you can chill and focus on Mitt. I'll leave it totally up to you. One thing I think is really interesting here is I see a couple things coming off Mitt. One is it looks like you're trying to make yourself look big. It's an unusual one, but it really caught my eye. It reminds me of like, because you look a little bit afraid. If we look at his sort of his Mitt's body versus his eyes, what you'll see is there's some fear in his eyes. And you guys all know none of this is criticism, right? I think you've all been through the training. You can all handle it. I'm just going to tell you what I see. It's almost like you're an animal trying to make itself look big so a predator will leave them alone. There's sort of that energy. I also see at the same time that there's very little coming in. Yeah, Phyllis called it out. It's really good, Phyllis. Looks like they're smearing it onto him exactly. So I saw sort of this interesting combination of energies all at once. There's sort of this fear, oh God, don't eat me. Let me pump myself up to look big so I don't get eaten, right? But you're just going through the motions in terms of bringing the energy in. It's almost like you want to look like you're taking in energy, but you're not. It's almost like Bill Clinton smoking pot, right? Everyone remember that? When he famously said, yes, I smoked weed once, but I never inhaled. It's like, really? Who does that, right? Yeah, we used to joke that Jerry Brown smoked weed once too, but he never exhaled. It's funny if you're familiar with the history of California politics. Good. So one thing I noticed you'll see here with Mitt, you can see how he's getting comfortable with us. That there's still a little anxiety, but you're not terrified of us like you were before. And it's interesting that you're starting to connect yourself a little bit. There's still a lot of smearing, but it's almost like as you're starting to accept yourself and where you're at, you're able to bring in a little bit. So does everyone kind of see that? Do you especially see the disconnect where there's a little fear in the eyes, but the body's trying to look big? On a lot of head cases will do this. Your head's off doing one thing while your body's busy doing something else. What are you feeling, Mitt, as we're talking to you about this?
Yeah, it is. I agree. It is. Yeah, I'm not grounded. I feel a little unbalanced for sure.
Yeah, but it looks like you're getting more comfortable. Awesome.
Is there something very stiff about the neck area?
Yeah, let's look at that a little more.
Oh no, now he's trying to fix it.
Yeah, stop trying to fix it. There is what you'll see is his arms and hands are actually connected pretty nicely on both sides, and the connection goes up through your shoulders, Mitt, but it kind of dies somewhere between your shoulder and your neck. That it almost looks like you're holding an erect posture forcefully. It's almost like your chest and your neck are kind of pushing up and trying to, show strength and pride. Sort of like, a beefeater, their first day on the job. The guys that like guard the Tower of London and such, right? With their frilly hats and all that. They're famous for not reacting to anything. You know, people go up and like kick them in the nads and they're not supposed to react. Okay, good. As we're watching the energy change here, you'll notice who sees the difference in his eyes? It's a totally different emotion coming out. I'm curious what you guys see. Phyllis, what do you see?
Oops. Yeah, his eyes look more connected to us.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of sadness.
Oh, I can't see that through the glasses. Okay.
So that there was fear before, and you're right. You're correct. He is more connected to us. Before, he wasn't seeing us. He was just in fear with kind of a diffusive view. You know, imagine a prey animal being hunted by a predator. Here, it looks like he's more connected, and we're seeing the sadness come up. Sadness and confusion, for whatever reason, we see a lot of that as people are changing. Good. And do you see, Mitt, do you see how you feel much more confident in yourself here?
Yes.
I say more confident. There's still a little concern, right? But you're starting to relax and be yourself. You know, it reminds me of like being on a first date where everything's stiff and awkward and ultra polite for the first 5 minutes. But, you know, if you really like each other, you'll get over it pretty quick and laugh about it, right? So it looks like you're starting to drop in and be confident. Awesome. So thank you, Mitt. Anybody, if you guys have any questions, again, feel free to interrupt at any time. So I'm going to go back to the gallery view here. So just keep on moving. Seeing a couple good ones. Lakita, I'm going to pick on you next, if that's okay. What I see is, I'm not sure if you're tired, but you look like you're just going through the motions.
Yes.
And sometimes the part of that, we don't want to read too much into it. Sometimes you're just running on not a lot of sleep, or just came off a long shift or something like that, right?
Right.
But you look like you're just kind of there going through the motions. It's kind of like, yeah, it's not that I don't want to be here, right? It's not that. It's just kind of like, oh, are we done yet?
Right. Yep. That's it.
Are you tired? Have you had coming off a lot of pressure?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, one thing I want to call out is she has a lot of skill and connection in her hands. And we can see that you can really feel the way she's moving the energy.
Yeah, I feel it on my
Do you feel that?
fingertips.
Yeah. I mean, it really shows it very visibly. So that this is a good one. This is someone whose hands are very connected to the space. But it's interesting how it seems to be limited to your hands. I don't get that sense for your head, your shoulders, your hips, the rest of your body.
Yeah.
It's almost like
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, the rest of your body is just kind of getting dragged along. It's like the rest of you is just a life support system for your hands, right? You know, breathe air,
Brent,
eat
isn't there
food.
more core movement here than there was in the other?
There is. Well, what you'll notice is
Yes.
she is moving from her core, and that's a great comment. And I think that could be part of why we really feel her hands are connected to the space. And if you watch, there is some flexing and moving in the core. And we'll pick on Mitt for a second. I'll put Mitt back up. Look at both. You can see a difference is that Mitt's core it is more frozen.
Mhm.
It's more moving as one piece. Lakita, you can see that there's some movement.
Mm-hmm.
And what will happen is when we can move from the core, even a small amount of movement can create a big effect. That, you know, we find like with sports and martial arts and things, even a small, you know, degree or two in your range of motion of a joint or a muscle can have a big effect on the performance. I'm going to see what else is going on here. Yeah, Lakita, it also looks like you're creating or building something.
Hmm.
It almost has the sense of like you're pulling in some sand and you're going to build it into a sandcastle.
Hmm.
So I again, I'm seeing a lot of intelligence and connection in your hands. Do you work with your hands?
No,
No? Okay.
typing.
Yeah, typing. Typing, I'd say, is kind of working with your hands, you know, because all these ideas up in your brain have to articulate out through your fingers and hands to get into the computer, right?
Right.
At least until we develop the thought interfaces. Good. You do seem more grounded here. And we're starting
Yeah,
to
I'm starting
see,
to feel it in
yeah,
my body.
you don't look as tired. It's like you're
I'm
finding a
getting
second
warmer.
wind. Do you feel that?
Mhm. Yes.
And this is the nice thing. If we can fill ourselves with energy, you can still keep your mind clear and be active, at least right up until you pass out. We all have that ability as children. Anyone that's raised kids knows that. Especially little kids, they're going 100%, 100%. Then they just hit a wall and boom, hit the ground, right? They're out. So it does look like you're taking in the energy that you can really feel it and you're doing something with it. It's like kneading bread or, you know, something with it. Awesome. I'm going to go back to the gallery view. And you guys are always welcome to stop and rest at any point, right? It's not an endurance contest. You're not going to win a prize for moving your arms the most or anything like that. Okay, we're seeing some interesting things come off Celeste. Celeste, I'm going to put you on the spotlight here. So what I see is a some kind of wizard sorcerer that you're doing some kind of magic spell. But it's almost like you're a wizard for hire. You're not that interested in what you're summoning. It's just whatever, you know, just another day at the office summoning demons for, you know, noble people, right? So I want everyone to see, you'll notice that there's sort of a magical feel. It is almost like she's casting a spell, right?
It looks to me like she's feeling the energy though. Yeah.
She can feel a little bit. It's interesting. I want to see if I can see more about her hands. She is feeling it a little bit, not as much as we saw with Lakita, but she can feel it some. I'd say it's a blunter sensation. There's
Well, this hand that's spraying this finger is it won't straighten out.
well, it's interesting. I'm getting the similar sense on both hands though.
Okay.
But yes, she can feel the energy, though it's more in her hands, not as much in her arms. And it's interesting, even though you have an injury on your right hand is much more aware. Your left hand has a lot of skill. But
what are you seeing when you talk about the hand being more aware?
It's almost like how much is the hand seeing the room around it?
Because
versus
that's putting my energy, my
versus
attention.
a blindness.
Okay.
The attention is going to that hand and the other one's just.
And to me, it looks like her left hand is I wouldn't say blind, but it's having trouble seeing clearly. It's not paying as much attention to what's around it. The right hand has a lot more vision, even though it has the injury. Even though it's probably moving a little more slowly too. And it does look like, and it's probably the injury, your left hand does look like it's a little more active. Like it has a little more charge in its battery. It wants to move more.
Mm-hmm.
your left hand looks like a child that just wants to run around and burn energy. Your right hand looks more like the parent that knows what it's doing, but isn't going to just run around and burn energy for no reason, right? Looking for that path of least resistance. Very interesting. Yeah, but we can see how you have a lot of skill and ability in your left, but you trust the right more. It's like the masculine is in charge. And again, it's not a good or a bad, right? Doesn't matter.
But it's true. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And we see that a lot in our culture. We trust the masculine more than the feminine as a general rule. Awesome. So let's have everyone just take a break for a minute. And anybody want to share or ask questions? We'll take a couple minutes break for questions, and then we'll get moving again.
Yeah, Brent, do you mind sharing, like when you say the feedback, what could possibly affect the movement?
What do you mean by that?
Like when you say the left hand is slower or weaker than the right hand.
Oh yeah.
Do you see any energies coming off, any traumas or anything coming off, or any shifts? Do you see that, or is it a generic feeling?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but I'll do my best. I would say it's a kinesthetic feeling that comes in visually. So the signal is coming in visually, and it creates a sensation on the inside. So like when someone, has a breakthrough and becomes more free, I feel it is like getting free on the inside. And it's, again, it's a little hard to put words on this stuff, but I would be a little careful. You don't want to get too much into the analysis of the movement. And I mean, there's a million YouTube channels. If you guys want to learn how to analyze body language, they're out there, right? There's some interesting ones I've looked at, like, there's a guy that used to work for the FBI who was, an interrogator and a profiler, and he talks about all this stuff that he sees in body language, right? So there's a lot of former law enforcement. That's a lot of that. We're not as worried about, well, the left is above the right, and there is that. What I learned from Carl, which I think is the better way to go here, is a very intuitive aspect. So can I say what exactly in the movement or the angles makes me feel you're throwing it away? I'm not sure. My guess is you could find that if you chose to look for it. But I kind of intentionally avoid that, because if you guys are a lot like me, which I know most of you are, we're so good at the thinking space that once we go into thinking, it's hard to keep feeling, if that makes sense. So I try to push more into the feeling, figuring I do enough thinking already, right? It's sort of like when I was first learning healing, like after I did my first weekend with Terry, there was this other student of hers that got this machine that basically people would like hold these electrical handles, and it would send frequencies through your body and have a printout of you have this and this and this, and then protocols for each, right? And I think it was called, and there's been a bunch of systems that work on that process. I think it was Tom Stone, Human Software Engineering. And it was very interesting. And I was so tempted, because it would have been so much easier for me to go, buy a $24,000 machine, right? Go deep into credit card debt and have something where I could go out and work with people the next day. But I actually listened to Terry, and Terry said, Brent, I think that was it. Yeah, I think it was Tom Stone Human, but this is 20 years ago. So, and this brain isn't as foolproof as it used to be. interesting thing about memory, I won't interject now and anybody's curious, but I read some stuff about memory that totally changed how I think about it. I'm like, oh my God. But and what she said was, Brent, you have to develop the intuitive piece. Because she said there's nothing the machine can tell you that you can't get intuitively faster and better. And there's no frequency the machine can play to balance people that creator can't do again faster and better. So maybe that's a little arrogant, right? Maybe I'm what was the old story of the guy who had a contest with the steam engine, right?
Like Mulligan.
Yeah, Mike Mulligan was it.
Mhm.
And you know, he beat the steam engine but died of a heart attack from exertion. I think the story went something like that, right? At some point the machine and the analytical may do better, but I think where most of us need the work is the intuitive part. That on a whole, we need to balance ourselves, right? We need to balance our masculine, our feminine, our left and our right, individually within our families and as a society. I mean, it's fascinating to me that we look at gay couples, they have the exact same energy dynamics as a straight couple, right? If you have a lesbian couple, one of them's the man, one of them's the woman, right? You have gay men, one of them's the man, one of them's the woman, right? So our goal here is to build and develop the part of us that is weak and holding us back, which for the most part is the feminine. Because again, our culture, especially with AI now, data and analysis, the machines are going to do it much better than us. So the place where the humans have more value is the place the machine can't go. And one of my side projects that, of course, I don't find time to work on like I should, you know, I'm busy doing really important things like watching regular season baseball games, right? Is I want to use AI to build a healer bot, to use my archive of recorded sessions to train an AI to basically build a chat bot that you play the binaural beats and it clears blocks on you with a digging. What I'm curious is, will the AI have intuition? I don't know. Because it's built on a human with intuition, right?
Mhm.
Will that show up in some way in the data analysis? I don't know. I think it'll be interesting though. Because the point is, all the rote digging you guys learned in level 2, certainly in 5 to 10 years, there'll be an AI that can do that just as well. But I'm curious to figure out, where is the part where we really need a human in the loop, right? Just like when you go on a website, we're all using AI chatbots all the time, right? If it's something stupid and simple, I don't mind dealing with a robot, that's fine. But there's some issues, you know, you have to have a human, right? There's a lot of things that fall in the cracks, nuance, things that the system wasn't prepared for that you need a person to figure out. So, you know, not directly relevant, but that's kind of applies here too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, just quickly, when you did the slackline with Carl, and few days and few weeks after you made that speech and made some money, what was that feeling when Carl said that to you? Hey, this is what I see. This is your energy.
Mostly I felt like I was getting yelled at. Now, I'm not blaming Carl. That's why I choose those words carefully. I felt like I was getting yelled at. That was my takeaway, my conclusion. I don't think Carl was yelling at me. I don't think he raised his voice. I don't think he was being cruel or mean about it, right? That was just my emotional takeaway. It's like with art. There's what's inferred and what's implied. All I can speak to is what Brent inferred from the session. I just felt like he was criticizing me. And I was a little frustrated because I'm like, dude, I already know I'm a fucking huge failure, right? I get it. I just went bankrupt yesterday, right? My first wife left me, you know, all my friends have bailed. You know, the only beings on the planet that seem to like me are my 2 cats. So to me, it just felt like he was piling on criticism. And that's why I went home and called Brian and yelled at him. And he's like, dude, give it 3 weeks. We'll see what happens. And I guess I had enough trust in Brian to give it a few weeks and things started to click. You know, again, it's not like it was happily ever after, because that's a storybook, right? But was there a move forward past the certain level of problems I had then, moving into the next level of problems? Yes. But that's life, right? That we all know that today's solution is tomorrow's problem. You know, that we should, I think, surrender, because that's the nature of the universe. Just like what goes up must come down, right? Carl would say, everything that you love, if you live long enough, will die or break and disappear from your life. So every joy of love and connection, there will be a downside when you lose it. Phyllis, great question. Can I use the macros? I'm going to teach it to, whether it works, I don't know, but I think it will. I don't see it as the AI using the macros. I see it as sort of part of Brent's or collective consciousness energy using it non-temporally. No different than using Unleash Your Inner Millionaire, right? Is there a magic AI in the recorded sound? No, not to my knowledge, right? There's just some music and binaural beats in my voice. But I charged it with energy and did belief work on myself so that anyone that listened to it would get the benefit. So my plan is to build it that same way. So is it the AI actually using the macros? No. It's more like Brent using the macros non-locally on the people using the chatbot. It also would be interesting, and I was really worried about this when I released Unleash Your Inner Millionaire. I'm like, if 400 people buy this in the next week, am I going to end up in the hospital because I'm so tired? Didn't seem to happen. Seemed to be okay. I mean, hey, these are open questions, right? And once in the Oppenheimer movie, I want to. I really want to. But yeah, they really didn't know if the chain reaction would stop.
Right.
It was a legitimate fear that it would consume the entire Earth. And everything would just be gone. Can you imagine, right? So you can predict, you can model, but until you turn it on and flip the switch, you don't know. But I think this stuff is interesting. Yes.
Is it like you've put your attention and intention into that AI program,
Yep.
so that it's just functioning
Yep.
for whoever
Yeah, exactly.
is watching it, receiving it.
Exactly. Other questions? Happy to answer. Otherwise, we'll do some more movement. All right. So who wants to suggest a movement? Now, obviously, we could do the handshaking. We can do the throwing something and catching it. You guys can do the wave or come up with your own movement. So either pick one of the ones I suggested or come up with something new. I mean, just has to be something that will fit inside the frame, right? That isn't too difficult, right? Lots of fun ones. How many of you guys can do this?
Moving the shoulders.
Okay, let's do the moving the shoulders.
It's forwards and back, and
Okay.
because that's where we carry
Let's
a
try
lot
that.
of.
Let's see what we got. Interesting. I'm going to call up Shilpa. And anyone, if I'm saying your name wrong, please correct me. I hate saying people's name wrong. Go ahead. Keep moving, Shilpa. Well, the thing I think is interesting is her shoulders look very disconnected. It's almost like there's two brains and one's moving one shoulder and one's moving the other. And again, none of this is meant as criticism, right? We're just calling out what we see. Whereas I'm going to put up Sheila here too. Sheila, it looks like her shoulders are very connected. It's almost like there's a border, a string between them that keeps them moving as one. I'll add both up so you guys can see it. Anyone get a sense of that?
Yeah.
And it's not that one's better or worse, they're just different, right? What's better, a tall person or a short person? All depends, right? There's no energy or movement or whatever that's inherently better. It's always a question of, is it well adapted to the environment? That's what life is about, being well adapted to the environment. We can also see a little difference here. With Sheila, it looks like the movement is coming from maybe her solar plexus, somewhere between the second and third chakra. Shilpa, it looks like your movement is coming from your neck. Again, none of this is bad or good, right? Our goal is to just articulate what we're seeing so our brain can make connections and learn to read energy. Oh, I really like having two people on, because we get doing the same movement in very different ways, huh? And Sheila looks like she's hearing like a metronome or a drummer on the inside. And Shilpa, it looks like you're kind of using your head, getting an external signal to move. Let's see if we can exaggerate that a little bit. Really move from your neck and move your shoulders independently of each other. Keep them asynchronous. There we go. Good. Everyone notice as she's moving, this is the first time it looks like her shoulders are connected. There you go. Good. Now you're starting to move from the inside. Can you feel the difference there? Yep. There it goes. Now you have your rhythm, huh?
Yes.
Yep.
I can feel more core as well.
Yep. Yeah, you're moving from lowering your body, and it looks like your body's moving coherently now, which is really interesting, huh? All it takes is a little bit. I'm going to put it back on the gallery view. And as always, anytime you need to stop, take a rest, do so. I'm gonna spotlight Julio here. What I see in Julio is there's definitely a fear of being watched and judged, and it looks like you're afraid of getting it wrong. It's almost like you're looking around to take in clues. Hey, am I doing this right? This is good. I could see some confusion hit you when you heard that, and that's great.
I got a pop every time the shoulder. I'm trying to move it slowly to pop, not pop it. That's
Yeah, just no pain.
yeah, it's not painful, but I'm trying to move slow so I don't pop it.
Slow is fine. Slow is great. Move as slow as you need to. There you go. Good. It was interesting. After you explained that, you kind of let go of a layer. It seems like you settled down a little bit. That there is a little bit in your eyes that you're scanning for threats. And it could just be that you're worried about your shoulder. I mean, sometimes it's that simple, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion, a lot of new age people read too much into things a lot of the time.
I was doing this one for a while and I stretched out. It's great. Yeah. This one is, of the two exercises, this is the one left.
Yeah, it's a little harder for you. And that's okay. Have you guys heard the Pyrex story?
No.
If not, I'll share it just because it's really funny. Keep moving, Julio. You're doing great. I want to watch how your energy changes here, because you're looking at the outside and the inside at the same time here. Your inner vision's doing something interesting. You're wanting to look inside, but you keep being pulled outside. So I'll distract you a little bit with a great story. This was when I did the Rainbow Children's course the first time, and one of the exercises is reading a crystal ball. And so we got set into groups of 6, 7, 8 people with a crystal ball. and Terry was facilitating my group, and there was another guy there. No, it was a lady. It doesn't matter. I forget. There was a person there. And when it was their turn, they're like, oh my God, I think I'm getting it. Oh my God, I think I see something. Oh, geez, it's a P. There's a P. I'm seeing a P, right? And, everyone was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Blah, blah, blah. You're so intuitive. Best psychic in the world, right? And Terry just goes, no, you idiots. You're seeing the P carved into the bottom of it because it's made of Pyrex. And she held it up, and there it was. There was a P, right? So that's my little story on how sometimes New Agers can get caught up with this stuff, right? Sometimes you're seeing a P just because it's literally carved into the bottom of it. Good. So what I'm seeing the difference here is, Julio, your inner vision is turned on a lot. What we were seeing earlier, you were looking to the outside. It was almost like you were looking around to get external feedback on, am I doing it right? It almost looked like, you ever been like your first day in the aerobics class or a yoga class where everyone else seems to know exactly what they're doing, and you're just like looking around like, 30 seconds behind everyone else, just barely trying to keep up, right? I've been there. That's what it kind of looked like, right? You're like looking around, trying to take in cues from the outside. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Blah, 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 right? And what I see here is, since I put you on the spotlight, there's a little bit of that, but you're looking inside now. There's a much stronger inner vision. And I want to call this out because this is a great example of this. Can everyone see how, yes, his eyes are looking around, but he's not really paying attention to what he sees on the outside? His inner vision is on strong. And Julio, go ahead and close your eyes for a minute and just keep doing exactly what you're doing. And you notice there was no sense of him going blind at all, is there? That's because he really wasn't using the outside and the vision. It was all coming from the inside. And if anything, it looks like he's paying more attention now, doesn't it? He looks more focused, more coherent in that sense. So this is a great example of inner vision. There are other times, and we may not see it tonight, when someone closes their eyes, it looks like they've gone blind. What are you feeling, Julio?
Almost like a stick going this way. When this one's back, this one's forward, and
Yep.
But it's connected in here.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. There's a coherence you're seeing on the inside, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. And it really does look like your shoulders are moving as if they're one piece. I know it sounds crazy, but you're moving as if both your shoulders are part of the same body.
Yeah.
Who would have thought, right?
Yeah. Been working on this for a while, so yeah.
Yeah, good. It's especially important for men to move their shoulders because most men, by the time they're 50, their shoulders are just frozen solid like a chunk of ice.
Carrying the weight of the world.
Yeah, carrying the weight of the world, all that responsibility and stress and pressure. I mean, of course, it can happen to women too. It's just very common. You talk to any physical therapist, Chinese doctor. There you go, good. But this is great inner vision. We're also starting to see your arms are starting to get connected more to the space. Certainly your right shoulder more than your left. Can everyone see how his right shoulder is moving more energy?
Mm-hmm.
Your left shoulder is moving, but it looks like when your right shoulder moves, it's like pushing on a bunch of water or air. There's a viscosity to the space. Your left shoulder looks like it's moving through it more than pushing it. And of course, I'll post the recording for all you guys. We'll email that out to the VIP club. And Julia, what you'll see is earlier, it was more incoherent. It looked almost like you had two brains. And now you're moving very much as one piece. And even when your eyes are open, you still have that inner vision.
I've just spread my legs wider and point them out to get balance too.
That's fine.
No, it's just something I've noticed.
Yeah.
I was too close together and I was wobbling.
No, that's really good you notice that, because as you get into balance, your body will naturally shift, usually without a lot of thought.
Yeah.
Your leg, your arm, your weight will shift a little bit subtly. You're probably not even thinking about it. And that's good. That's the body's intelligence bringing you into balance. Because as you have a more balanced energy, your physical posture needs to mirror that, right?
Yeah.
At least I've been told by a lot of body workers, osteopaths and such, that when we get those unconscious releases, that's one of the best things. You ever get that when your arm or your leg or your hip suddenly like jerks or moves kind of on its own? That's the body coming into balance. Awesome. So we're going to take you off the spotlight.
Thank you.
And Phyllis had requested some hips. So let's do a little bit of hips to finish up here. Now, there's many ways to do the hips. Doing like a hula hoop hip circle is probably the easiest. Yeah, we're seeing a definite man-woman difference here. Most women can move their hips more easily than most men. Oh, and Phyllis, you're getting a little sexy here with your Elvis. And I'm going to pick on Mitt just for a moment, because thank you for being the man with the stiff hips. Do you see how it's very difficult for Mitt to move his hips? That you can move your whole body. And you can actually move your right hip a little more than your left. But it's difficult for you to really move the hips independent of the rest of you. And again, totally normal for a man, especially a man over 40-ish. Or move the spotlight. Now I'm gonna call up Shilpa here. Her hips are very fluid, especially her right hip. I see a big difference. Shilpa, are you aware your right hip is very fluid and movable? Your left is a little stuck.
Yes.
And again, none of this is criticism, right? So you'll notice her right hip is almost effortless, moves around very easily. When it comes to the left, there's a little bit of a ratcheting, and it doesn't want to go as far as fast. We can also, I can really feel it. When your right hip comes forward, it feels like the energy is pushing into me through the screen. That's part of that.
What happens if she tries to go in the other direction?
Oh yeah, let's have you go the other direction.
Oh, then the right is even more obvious.
Yeah, then it's even more obvious, yeah. I'll try to call it out, but when I really feel it, there. Yep. Do you have any injuries in your left leg, left hip?
Not really.
Okay, that's okay.
But I can feel the stiffness a bit.
Yeah, it probably goes back decades. You might have tweaked your ankle or a little bit when you were 6 years old and there was a shift in the muscle. It's all this crazy stuff like that, right?
I did have a fracture in my arm.
Yeah, something like that, especially when you're young, they create small compensations. It's nothing a doctor would notice. But a good body worker, physical therapist will see it. Or energy worker in this case, right? It's also notice you're more comfortable putting your masculine side forward. Because I feel when you bring your left hip forward, you're a little embarrassed, a little concerned. You know? When it's your right hip, you're just kind of like, hey, this is me. There's a lot more confidence there. So my guess is you probably trust to putting your masculine first in life. Yeah, no, it's not a bad thing. Got to put something first, right? If I'm going to walk across the room, I have two choices for what foot to use first, left and right. It's really that simple. Doesn't really matter which one you come with first. Now, Sheila, I've got you on the spotlight here. And it's a little more subtle, but there's a little difference going to the left and going to the right. We'll see if I can call out more of what I'm seeing here. Yeah, it's the first half of the circle. When you go back around to your left, you're rushing it a little bit. I don't know if you can feel that. You're trying to move through it faster. When you have your right hip forward, you feel more confident. You're okay going a little slower. And oh yeah, we gotta show a little bit. What I want to see
It's
here
so
is
easy.
go ahead,
No,
Phillips.
it's so easy for me to go around to the right, but to go around to the left is harder.
Why don't you do both here? So Phyllis
This
has
is to the
gotten
right.
the closest we've seen to the Elvis hips here. So this is great. Doesn't everyone feel a little bit of that Elvis hips? Yeah, but it is
But now in the other direction is weird. Sometimes I'll forget what I'm doing
yeah.
and have to focus on it.
It looks like your right hip moves more easily than your left. There's a bigger
So I
range.
can hula hoop to the right real easily. I got a hula hoop recently.
Okay.
But to the left is real hard.
Interesting, huh? Yeah, the vertical range on your right hip is big. I think that's part of why we're really feeling the energy. Your right hip is able to really go up and down. Your left isn't bad. It's just a little more constricted in how it can move.
Huh.
I want everyone to just watch for a minute. You'll see her right hip is moving a lot in the vertical plane. There's a lot of up and down movement. Her left hip, there's definitely some vertical movement, but it's more going in a circle. There's less up and down.
I get confused going to the left. The right is easy. Yeah. So I'll practice more to the left.
Yep. That's what it comes down to.
Okay.
Yep. But you got a little bit of that Elvis thing going, and that's great. I think Elvis became the king of rock and roll, not because he had a great voice, which he did, not because he wrote great songs, which he did, but it was the way he could move his hips.
Yep.
Because let's face it, there were a lot of other guys that had great voices that wrote great songs. None of them became the king of rock and roll. To a similar extent, Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson could really move his body.
Yeah.
So fluidly, right? He could really feel it.
I get confused. It's like, I want to do it this way. I want to do it this way.
Yeah, Michael Jackson was not the greatest singer or the greatest songwriter, but could that man dance? Oh my God. Interesting stuff, huh?
So Brent, when we have this right one more dominant, that's why you're saying that's your masculine side?
Yeah, generally when you're more dominant on the right, it usually means you trust the masculine more. That'll tend to be what you lead with. And this was one of the things that was so interesting when Carl Wolf would do the skating diagnostic. It didn't start with the rollerblading. It started with you went and rented the gear at the stand, and he turned on the video camera as soon as you sat down to put it on. And one of the things he was looking for was, are you doing it rationally or intuitively? They can both work. And so you got these pads and you're like, what do I do with this? And I remember I was there, I think it was a Tuesday morning or Tuesday early afternoon, and there was nobody else around. Because my first thought was I'm going to look at someone else and see how they put their pads on, but there was no one to look at. And so I ended up doing it more rationally. But it did take me a little time. And that was one of Carl's first clues that I was dysfunctional. As a highly functional person, wouldn't need a lot of time to think about it. They would just know how the pads go on. Either rationally, they would think through it very quickly and come to their conclusion, or intuitively, or just know. But I struggled. It took me like 20 minutes to get all the pads on. And I showed that basically in my movement, I had a stronger connection to the intuitive, but I didn't trust it. So I forced myself to use the masculine, the rational, even though I probably could have done it faster intuitively. So long answer to a short question. But everything, including how we set up, right? You know, if you have a headset on, where the cord is, all these things are products of energy. At the same time, we want to remember, you don't want to read too much into any one little detail, right? We don't always get sick for some earth-shattering cosmic reason. Sometimes you just needed a couple of days off, right? Maybe you just stood next to the wrong person at Starbucks and you got sick, right? Other times there's deep meaning. So other questions, feedback. Otherwise, we'll wrap up for today. We'll get you guys the recording.
So just one more question. So if you're trying to bring in more of the feminine side, right? Then do we like make the movement a lot stronger on the feminine, or
generally what I would say is whatever it is you're trying to work through, exaggerate the opposite. So if your masculine is much smoother and more open than your feminine, then make the feminine more tight, more constricted, right? If your left arm is a much bigger range than your right, make your right a smaller range. So go, okay, what is it I want? What's the exact opposite of what I would think to get there? Which is kind of funny, right? That so many things in life, the way we get there is doing the exact opposite of what we think. And a lot of us are there. That's part of the reverse wiring. It was one of the funny things. I remember Brian told me this all the time regarding dating. He said, Brent, you could kill it. You could be getting dates like crazy. Just always do the opposite. Right? If you think you want to approach someone, don't. If you don't want to approach them, do. If you want to ask them out, don't. If you don't want to ask her out, do. It's like, seriously, at every step, just do the opposite and you'll do great. So it's the same kind of thing. Just, again, be careful of the rational mind. Fixing it is usually the worst thing to do. Yep. Yeah. Phil is day trading. There was a guy, Marcus something. I took his seminar. He wrote this book, his thing called The Simple System for Trading. And long story short, he spent 2 years, quit his job, took like $200,000 on a HELOC and lost almost everything. And one time he was doing a post-mortem and realized, oh my God, I'm losing like 65% of my trades. Statistically, that's very difficult. So all he did was he inverted everything in his system and started making money. So, yep. That being said, yep. Matt, go ahead.
A quick question. So the feedback, the movement with feedback, since we did a lot today, is it useful to do the regular movement like the 2-mile walk after that, or wait for a day and reset it and do the next day?
I can, either way is fine. I don't feel there's a big difference either way. Hey, if you're really psyched to do movement and your energy's up and you got enthusiasm, great, go do it.
Oh, cool. Thanks.
Yep. If you're like, wow, that's enough for today, I'm feeling kind of cooked, then hey, you know, go read a book or meditate or, you know, whatever your thing is. Yeah, I'll just put out there, since we mentioned day trading, this is mainly for Phyllis, but anyone else, I'm putting together a small group to build a trading bot based on my buddy's system. It's this thing with an imbalanced condor, essentially finding inefficiencies in the market. So if anybody's interested, let me know. We're probably going to have a meeting this weekend. We have one version we built the bot for TD Ameritrade, but they got bought by Schwab and the interface is changing. You couldn't do paper trading, blah, blah, blah. But if you're really interested, you know, the more the merrier.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
interested
Mitt,
too.
okay. I'll ask you guys, just email me. I'll put my email in the thing here. I'll give you my direct email. Mention the trading bot thing. And we've located a good programmer to start it. The goal is we're going to pay someone to build the first version of it, and most likely I'll take it over from there. It's just I've been out of the game too long to build it from scratch. And you know, we're looking to pool resources as well as ideas. And you know, the goal is you know, we're not looking to take over the world. Like a lot of us, the goal is to find a way to try to make some passive income to free us up and remove some of the stress burden from our lives. Because I would love to do what I do without ever having to worry about how much money I'm making. That would be amazing, right? Just do it purely because you want to make a difference and put your stuff out there, you know? But it's tough when you got bills coming in and all these demands on you, right? It's hard not to think about the money. So any other questions, shares, go for it. I'm here for everyone. Yes, we do need to finish with sealing on Celeste.
Throughout all the movement,
Yep.
I was able to get feeling in my body, except for like the waist down. So when we started doing the second and the third movement, I guess I kind of let go when I was doing the hip movement, and then I felt like this energy in my upper extremities.
Neat.
But I'm trying to focus and get it to the lower, and it never made it. So
yep. No, very normal. Most people have a much easier time getting energy in the upper part of their body. It's tough to get the energy into your legs. I would say next time, remember to exaggerate the opposite. If you feel no energy in your legs, see if you can make there be no energy at all, even less energy in your legs. That's what I mean by don't try to fix it, right? So it's normal. You go, gee, there's no energy in my legs. I need to push more energy into my legs, right? Do the opposite.
Right.
Make sure no energy goes there. You may find it opens up on its own. It's pretty crazy.
Yes.
But it works, right? Yeah, and hey, with the dating, it really worked because when I met my wife, I wasn't even looking to have a date because I was 2 months from the end of the intensive. I was just sending an email hoping she wouldn't respond. Literally exaggerate the opposite, right? Yep. I'm like, hey, 2 more months of the intensive, then I'll start dating again. So I just sent emails hoping that these women would not write back to me. Like, I don't have time for you. I just want my free 6 months, right? Yeah. Crazy how that works. Awesome. So who would like to lead in the healing on Celeste? Celeste, pick somebody to lead. The rest of us will send unconditional love.
Sheila.
All right, Sheila, you're leading. Well, anybody a lip reader? You can just type into the chat room, go, and then finish, Sheila. And we got the rest covered. All right, so everyone go ahead and send love. All right, all set. So everyone shower, rinse, break. And Celeste, you'll have to let us know how your finger does. Maybe you'll wake up tomorrow and totally forget about it. These things happen.
I'm gonna go get it x-rayed though right now just to make sure.
Yeah. Well, maybe there won't be anything there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I didn't hear the instructions correctly, and I just heard Brent say "send love."
Yep.
My son was distracting me, and literally that was the first time that I was able to do the group touching.
Oh,
it was
cool.
it was like a line, and then there was lines coming down to everyone.
Yep.
It just happened.
Hey, awesome. Sometimes a little ignorance can work in your favor. You really
Yeah.
can. Because then you're not reliant on the rational. You don't have the words and the directions, so the intuitive fills it in. It was kind of funny that when I did matrix energetics, the most valuable thing I took away from the whole 3-day weekend and all the money I spent was something that the teacher wasn't actually teaching. It was me misinterpreting something he said, and then I missed the section the next day where he clarified. But I ended up, what I took away was actually really valuable. I may teach that in an AI sometime. It's only temporary. That's why it's not in the main curriculum. But it's a great way of getting a temporary pain relief or something. You know, it'll last maybe 24 hours for an injury. But again, I don't put it into the core curriculum because I'm more about the permanent shift, right? But there's a really fun way of someone, if you want to temporarily take away someone's pain, I can show you guys how to do that. Yeah, just ask in the AI. I'm happy to share. Awesome. Any other shares or questions? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up for today. Thanks everyone for joining us for our first prototype new movement group. Do you like it? Should we do it again?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. Yeah, well, for the time being, we'll plan on doing this once a month. And if it gets more popular, we may add more. We'll see how it goes. All right, awesome. Well, I'll see you guys in the practice group or AI section next Tuesday. And tell all your friends we're having a public quantum field dance party next Wednesday. And that's going to be a free event for the list. Sound good?
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Good night. Take care and namaste. See y'all next time.